Little hint for you about that title. They're not the same thing. I'll be right back. Well, Gracious Gang, it's Mike Creevy, host of the Gracious Guest Show. So happy that you have tuned in today for just a few minutes about a very important difference. A difference that I by no means am the first person to notice. There's all sorts of articles and all sorts of, different takes on this. If you snoop around on the internet, I took a quick little peek just before I recorded because the idea didn't come to me because of that. It came to me for other reasons, but, it is something that other people are cued into as well. But listen, don't just hear. What really kind of sparked this for me is my location right now, which if you can listen just for a moment, maybe you can figure it out. So let me just go ahead and be quiet here for a second, and I'm walking. It's a little breezy, so you'll probably pick that up as well. And let me give you 30 seconds of me shutting up so you can see what's going on here where I'm at. So check this out. Okay. It's getting closer. If you haven't been able to tell already, I am at the shore, specifically Ocean City, New Jersey, our typical beach vacation spot with my wife's family. I'm also approaching a massive, more massive than usual, clump of something on the beach here. There was a big storm last night, and I don't know. My guess is this is going to be a crab. Could just be a huge clump of seaweed. Also, I should note that my vision appointment isn't for another couple of months, so that might be a problem as well. But, yep, it's seaweed. So, I wanted to record this from the shore. I've done this before in the past. And I think it's such an important thing to think about these days. It's always been an important thing. Hey, buddy. There's a dog. No, not me. There's a dog that almost brought his ball to me instead of to his master. I'm a little confused. Got all caught up in the game. But when I was in the Army, I was part of a training program called Master Resilience Training. And they sent me to get all certified for it and everything. And I'd had some exposure to the program as a young officer. And then took an interest in it. And I guess my participation in some of the training blocks was reason enough for some of the leaders, one in particular who became a good friend of mine. Hey, Sergeant Tresco, if you're listening to this. So, she kind of recommended me to go receive this training and become one of the unit's trainers to keep doing this training for other soldiers. So I did. I went out and I did the course for it. And long story short, it's a positive psychology-based program that it's not to train therapists. We weren't therapists. We remained soldiers in our unit, whatever our other jobs were. We were in the National Guard specifically. So we all had civilian lives and stuff. Came from a big, wide sort of swath of backgrounds and different talents and that sort of thing. But we all had in common, I think, a real desire to see our soldiers be healthy, be well. And an openness to recognize that they're might be some room indeed for some creative growth in terms of how we do that. It's not always enough, just to tell your guys to just sort of buck up, suck it up. You just have to be tougher. There is truth to that. There's a whole grit movement right now about, finding endurance and grittiness and that kind of stuff. That's very, very important. It really is. You can't just have every obstacle removed for you. There needs to be some level of toughness in all of our lives, some level of growth in that area, and it's difficult. But there's more to that picture. There is not just there's not just the body. There's the soul. Soul, the word where we get soul from, really. When you think of psychology, the study of the psyche. Psyche is not just brain. Psyche is soul. Psyche is the seat of who you are at your most profound depth. It's where are you? You are not, newsflash, just the sum of a bunch of body parts and electrical impulses. There are some people who think that, but they're just wrong. And it's kind of a goofy thing, quite frankly, to think otherwise. I mean, it's just so obvious that there's something more going on with us than just that. For more on that, reference my previous episode, Reductionism is Lame, because it is. To just reduce human beings to their parts is a fool's errand, and you will be sure to not be able to understand humanity. So, long story short, why do I bring this up? In our training, which ultimately was geared at, a lot of things, basically, instead of waiting for someone to be broken, how about trying to help build people up? Identify strengths, identify talents. And we used all sorts of different, kind of modern psychological, very research-based techniques to do that. And one of my favorite blocks of training was called active constructive responding. And this is something that you might have heard of before. And it's difficult, and it remains difficult, even though, I learned this, I practiced it, it's in my bones. I continue to try to practice it, and it's always challenging. Because basically, someone comes up to you and starts talking to you about something. And just for this example I'll give, they bring you some good news. Maybe they got a new job. And they start telling you about their new job. And what are you tempted to do? You're tempted, and it's there's not a vicious thing. It's you may not mean anything by it. You're tempted to steamroll that person by sharing your own good news over top of the good news they're sharing, or essentially sort of hijacking the conversation. When this person has come to you because they trust you, because they for some reason they want to share with you. They think you are worth sharing this good news with. And, sure, they probably would like at some point, maybe even in this conversation later, they might want your opinion, they might want your take on it, but that's not primarily why they brought it to you. Okay? They brought it to you because they want to tell you this good news about themselves. And they want you to listen. What happens a lot of times is we don't really listen. And that's because of selfishness. It's ultimately because of sin. Everything's because of sin. Call me crazy, but it's the key to the entire human experience. As is. The real key to the human experience is the not ultimately sin, I suppose, but the redemption from it and the restoration of our human nature the way it was always meant to be. And that's a whole other conversation. But for now, suffice it to say that we don't listen very well. We hear, but we don't listen. And it's not the same thing. Because I think the shortest way to break this down, when you really think about it, is, you hear noises, right? You hear noises, we should listen to people. Listen to persons. You hear things, we listen to someone. Because And the importance, of course, is absolutely essential. And you know it whether you realized it or not. You know in your life moments, you can just stop now and think about it. Times when you've been heard but not listened to. You're really trying to get that important point across. You're really speaking from your heart. There's something urgently important, but someone doesn't want to listen to you. Someone doesn't want to do what you're suggesting or whatever it might be. And you keep insisting, and what do they say? I hear you, I hear you. Okay? It even carries across a little aggression in it. I know that's what it feels like, at least, when someone says that to me, in that kind of way. And, now, to be fair, we might throw these words around interchangeably sometimes and not really, mean anything negative by it. But at a deeper level, I think it's urgently important, especially when you look at the kind of takeaway, sort of on a macro level, when we do that in our daily lives, with each other, with our own families, with our friends, with our associates, with our students, with our employees, with our boss, whoever it is. Why wouldn't we do it as a nation with those guys across the aisle? Why wouldn't we do that as a sort of human race around the world with those people, right, who live halfway across the world or who look different from me? It shouldn't be surprising. And what I'm not saying is that everybody's opinion is equally valid, because it's not. The Nazis' opinion about Jewish people was not a valid opinion. It's an evil, wicked, false, and dangerous opinion. So are a lot of other opinions in our society today. I don't want to list a lot of them, because that would take this in a sort of a different direction. But again, I get into some of these things in some of my blog posts and podcasts and videos. So you just have to subscribe to all that stuff, by the way, over at thegraciousguest.org for more. So I just want to wrap this up by just kind of bringing it to a close with the beach. I'm standing here about knee-deep in the Atlantic Ocean. And when I come here, my whole life, and the older I get, the more true this is, I don't ever just hear the sea. There's something different about it. I listen to it. And I listen to it because I genuinely believe it has something to tell me. I genuinely believe that the sea deserves my respect. And here I am standing at the gentle lapping waves here, the shallows, watching nature all around me. It's just this incredibly profound experience. But I know that this sucker is not weak, is not something to be toyed with. It doesn't take a whole lot for these waves to become violent and dangerous. But there is a peaceful side to this experience. There is a inspiring, encouraging, upbuilding character to coming here every single time I do. I don't ever think as clearly as I do here. I don't ever really listen as well as I do here, I don't think. And I don't really know entirely why that is. I have some thoughts. Again, I have a previous episode just all on the sea as well, if you want to go back and listen to that. But I think here this morning as I'm walking on the ocean shore, not the ocean itself. I do know a guy who can do that. It occurs to me that the best way for us to start seeing some change, the best way for me to make an impact on the things that frustrate me about maybe our society, the things that frustrate me about all of us basically just seeming to be content sometimes to just sort of hear each other, if at all, but not to actually listen, not to actually be open in a respectful way to the thoughts, the hurts, the joys, right? Joys and the sorrows of our brothers and sisters, that has to start with me. I have to be more willing to do that. I have to be willing to shut up and not just sit there waiting until the person's mouth stops moving so I can get a word in edgewise. Hello, all news today, right? But to actually listen, to think, to consider, to dialogue, not in an endless sort of, non-determination forming kind of exercise, not just to do it. Like, I say stuff and you say stuff and we both say stuff. And no, the only way we're actually going to come to true truth, true decision points, true mind changing when my mind is wrong on something, right, is to listen to each other, have that sink in way deeper than the shallow surface level, so that we even have a chance of dialoguing in a constructive sort of way where real change can happen. That has to start with you. It has to start with me. It has to start in our daily lives. So, something to think about today. How can we do a better job of listening, not just hearing, because they're not the same thing. And I'll pray for you. I ask you to pray for me too, because it's not easy. We're all in this together. So, God bless you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in today to The Gracious Guest Show. I'm your host again, Mike Creevy. Thanks so much, as always. Go to thegraciousguest.org. It's all over there. The blog, the podcast, the YouTube videos. Please subscribe, follow, whatever the word on those particular platforms is for you to be able to keep up to date. Click any little subscription bells or notification settings to kind of keep that new content popping up. I'm doing new video or a new podcast every Sunday right now, and so I'm trying to keep that going. It's difficult with a newborn, but it's possible. And that way you can see something or hear something from me each week. And I'm doing weekly blog posts as well, so trying to keep consistent with that. So again, thegraciousguest.org. Until next time, don't forget to wonder. Take care.